Hey, Marlins fans, welcome to a new edition of Big Fish Small Pod, the first small pod of the all-important month of July on the baseball calendar, here on the Fish on First podcast channel, presented by MPT College Consulting. I am Ely Sussman, here with the usual Marlins prospect spotlight, where I pick out a player from each Marlins full season minor league affiliate that is piquing my interest and I think would pique yours as well. And I'm giving you a little heads up that I'm cheating slightly on this one to get to 4 players that I think are worth discussing. Leading off with one that is pretty recognizable for Marlins fans that have any general understanding of the minor league system. It is the reigning Marlins minor league player of the year, Troy Johnston. Down in AAA Jacksonville, people were clamoring for him to get called up last year, even a little bit of those calls earlier this spring. Still hasn't been there. He's been playing every day down in Jacksonville, and one reason why he hasn't been probably top of mind is because he got off to a really slow start. Wasn't hitting for power early on, wasn't really hitting for average early on either. Wasn't stealing bases or hitting home runs to the same level as last year. And things have flipped around for him during this just completed month of June. Hit 340, slugged over 500, started stealing bases again as well. He had a 2020 season last year, and this year only 8 steals, but half of those just coming in the past month. Sometimes you just need a larger sample to emerge as your true self. His overall numbers this year now, not fully updated. These were as of Saturday. He was hitting 280 and an OPS in the mid 700s, playing in a pitcher-friendly league in the AAA International League. It's not all that impressive, and for a guy that was repeating that level as well. But to be honest, when somebody is already 27 years old, when he had the year that he had last year, it's not about the bottom line production. It's about how the tools actually translate to the big league level. And it's fair to question that. Somebody who is a lot more hit over power at a position, first base DH, that is generally requiring quite a bit of power. He dabbled a little bit in the corner outfield spots earlier this year, but since mid-May, exclusively first base as well. So the positional versatility isn't really there. And so it's a matter of, when does that opportunity come for Troy? Does it come by the end of this year? Does he have to wait until next year as well? As Jake Berger continues to really struggle at the big league level, as we count down the days to maybe Josh Bell finds a new home prior to the deadline, then it becomes more of a priority. Just wanted to mention he is playing well. Yes, he is still very much alive. He's not going to win minor league player of the year this year, but he's still just this really talented hitter that the Marlins should not totally waste. They shouldn't let time pass without finding out something about what he looks like at the highest level of competition. So hopefully we see him up at some point before the end of 2024. Moving down to AA Pensacola, Jacob Berry. So his overall numbers even uglier than Troy's by a long shot as well. At the start of this year, it was absolutely appalling how bad Jacob Berry was early on, really for almost 2 months of this year at the AA level, playing almost every single day. Initially a lot of third base. He started mixing in right field for the first time as a pro. Berry was hitting 146 with a WRC plus of 23. 100 is league average, and he was at 23 in late May when he went on a hiatus. It wasn't specified exactly why. It did not seem to be a physical injury, but he was off the field for about 2 weeks, returned on June 7th. And since returning on June 7th, he has been a really consistently good hitter. 21 games. He's reached base safely in 19 of them, a WRC plus of 150 entering Sunday night. And I'm recording this during Pensacola's game still going on. He has hit another home run. He had only 2 home runs all season until just these past 24 hours. He had one on Saturday night, and then now one to begin on Sunday to slowly tick up his numbers. I wouldn't say tick up to respectability. It's still really ugly overall, even including this extended stretch, this good 3-week run that he's had. He's still one of the worst qualified hitters in AA, in the AA Southern League, but he's closed the gap. He's always had some sort of decent contact ability. He is what I call just enough power, where a lot of his home runs are wall scrapers, to be honest. And that is one of the big differences between the player the Marlins thought they were getting with the first round of the 2022 draft and who he's actually been. is it's really limited power. I think the defense is worse than anybody could have feared, where he's just not playable at third base, and yet continues to get a lot of reps there. At least in right field, the accuracy of his arm isn't quite as damaging as it would be otherwise. Anyway, his overall numbers, he's ticked that batting average almost up to 200 for the first time since the very start of the season. The overall production is still a problem. He's probably going to spend the rest of this year at Double-A. Then we'll see what we have here. He was number 21, I think, when we last updated the Fish on First top 30 list. We're going to have to seriously consider removing him from the top 30 entirely when we update it again later this month. But he is showing some signs of life. It just did not make sense that he was quite as awful offensively as he showed the first couple months of the year. I just want to make you aware the last few weeks, he's been really consistently solid, showing hope as a guy that could just get you some well-timed singles and doubles, even if he doesn't really have a position, even if he doesn't give you much as a base runner. He is doing his best to salvage what has otherwise been a really disappointing year for Berry. Moving to high A Beloit, Emmett Olson, who I may have mentioned on a previous spotlight before earlier in this season. He was their 4th round pick in the 2023 draft. And you may have heard about, he started the year at low A Jupiter and threw back-to-back scoreless starts to very quickly earn a promotion to Beloit. So I wanted to check in on his progress. And now the overall numbers, if you combine Beloit and Jupiter, is a 2.34 ERA in 12 starts, 53 strikeouts and 57 2/3 innings pitched, only 1 home run allowed. So I don't know. I don't think that is quite sustainable. That's one reason why I think his ERA probably exaggerates quite how dominant he's been so far this year. It is really interesting to watch him. His slider is a real standout pitch that he can locate in the zone, and he can locate it really precisely to get it exactly where he wants to. He's a lefty that is fine with going inside to right-handed batters. I think that's really important and something that is not totally commonplace, even at the major league level. It's important to be able to use both sides of the plate. And he's more of an east to west pitcher. A lot of strikeouts come north to south when you do fastballs up and your secondary pitches below the zone. With him, he more so lives on the corners. So the fastball sits in the low 90s, maybe peaks at 94. Hasn't used the changeup very much, despite facing a lot of right-handed batters. You've heard that before. It sounds like a broken record, but the viability of prospects as potential starters at the major league level, a lot of it comes down to that changeup and being able to get strikes from it, be able to get chases from it, and that is still a big question for Olson. So I expect him to spend the rest of the season in Beloit's rotation right here. Overall, a more exciting guy than he appeared to be at the time of the draft. Somebody that you can have some expectations for as a kind of fringe top 30 prospect in this organization. He's been relatively consistent. Just one awful inning earlier during his Beloit tenure that inflated his ERA and took things away. But overall, you kind of know what you're getting with Olson right there. And finally, I alluded to it before, cheating with my low A Jupiter pick. I'm going with rehabbing infielder José Devers. Did you forget about Devers? Did you know he was still in the organization? Yes, he is. His 7th season in the organization since coming over in the Giancarlo Stanton trade. Still only 24 years old. He started the year in AAA Jacksonville and got off to a decent start. He was a slightly above average hitter. He was playing mainly second base, which I think realistically is going to be his defensive home if he does get back to the big league level, just because of some limited arm strength that he has there. Overall, just looks like the same guy that he has been the last couple of years. And unfortunately, the last couple of years have followed the same script where there's some sort of injury that takes out a big chunk of his season. He initially went out with that on April 20th. He tried to rehab in May, and then he tried to rehab again. Let me get the dates right on here. Began a rehab assignment on May 10th, then stopped it the next day. Tried to begin another rehab assignment on May 30th, and that only lasted a couple of days. So he just started this latest rehab assignment on June 26th in the FCL. Now he has joined Jupiter, where the Hammerheads reminded us he was a Florida State League All-Star 5 years ago in 2019. Still hasn't really filled out the frame all that much, especially when it comes to the upper body. So there's there's a big limitation with the power and his hit tool that showed it's quite a bit of promise. If you go back to early in his minor league career, it's just more ordinary right now in terms of being able to use all fields and be able to get anything more than singles right there. The speed is fine. He's still an above average runner, but not a plus runner like he may have been earlier in his career. Well, assuming that this rehab stint goes as hoped, we'll probably get back to Jacksonville by the end of this week. And anybody that's in Jacksonville, there's a chance we see them in the big leagues, but he's not on the 40-man roster. He's not going to leapfrog Xavier Edwards on the depth chart or anything like that. So, yeah, I don't know if we ever see him in the big leagues as a Marlin again, but I did want to remind you of his existence. And overall, his minor league career has been really interesting. It's just kind of stagnated, where the ceiling is not much more than a utility guy. And so maybe there's a chance that he gets up at some point before the end of the year. Overall, just wishing the best for him as a guy that is still so young, still has a lot of his professional career ahead of him. It's going to be about somehow trying to maximize that hit tool and find spaces in the defense that he hasn't been previously. Because right now, it does not look like he's going to be a notable part of this major league team. Troy Johnston at AAA, Jacob Berry at AA, Emmett Olson at High A, and José Devers temporarily at Low A. Those are the guys in my Marlins prospect spotlight this week here on the Fish on First podcast, presented by MPT College Consulting. Contact them today, mptcollegeconsulting.com, to learn more about their services. Schedule a free consultation. Thanks for listening to the Small Pod. Keep up with us during what is going to be a very, very busy month of both rumors and actual activity at all levels of the Marlins org. Thanks a lot for supporting what we do, and go fish.